Prince William never loved Camilla, a woman who to him will always symbolize his mother's heartbreak. Her presence has been a constant reminder of the pain Diana endured, and even today, Camilla's sharp demeanor and sense of entitlement continue to fuel tension. This year, the drama has reached new heights with William questioning her audacious Christmas Eve guest list. But who did Camilla invite to Christmas Eve to annoy William so much? Join us as we reveal the answer to this question and many others about the long-standing tension between William and Camilla. Prince William not only questioned Camilla's Christmas Eve guest list but also many of her other decisions. It is clear that William is not very impressed with his stepmother, and frankly, who can blame him? Their relationship has been anything but smooth sailing over the years, peppered with tension, mutual suspicion, and awkward attempts at coexistence. While things may look cordial on the surface, insiders have often hinted that beneath William's polite exterior lies a deep well of resentment toward the woman who he feels disrupted his family's life. Let's rewind a bit. It's no secret that Camilla's presence in King Charles's life was a huge factor in the messy, very public breakdown of his marriage to Princess Diana. Imagine being a young William watching your parents' relationship crumble under the media's relentless glare with Camilla's name repeatedly surfacing as the other woman. It's not exactly a recipe for warm, fuzzy feelings. According to royal expert Hilary Fordwich, William initially couldn't stand Camilla, and honestly, who could blame him? Even when Charles married Camilla in 2005, the tensions didn't magically disappear. William reportedly begged his father not to go through with it. He and Harry, still loyal to their late mother, feared Camilla might become a wicked stepmother and were skeptical of her intentions. But being the dutiful royal, William put on a brave face and played the part. Behind the scenes, though, sources say he remained wary of Camilla, refusing to fully open up to her or trust her motives. But let's not paint Camilla as entirely villainous. Over the years, she's worked hard to carve out her place in the royal family, taking on charitable causes and offering unwavering support to King Charles. This effort hasn't gone unnoticed by William. Despite their rocky start, he's reportedly come to appreciate her steadfast dedication to duty and her calming influence on his father. Still, don't let that fool you into thinking they are besties. The truce between them seems more like a carefully maintained peace treaty rather than a genuine bond. There have been plenty of moments when the underlying tension has bubbled to the surface. Take, for instance, the time Camilla reportedly left William and Kate stranded at Windsor Castle. Apparently, the younger royals were running late to join Charles and Camilla's convoy, and Camilla wasn't having it. She insisted they leave without them, a subtle but pointed reminder of the royal hierarchy. While the incident may seem petty, it's emblematic of the power dynamics at play. Camilla, it seems, isn't afraid to put William in his place when she feels his overstepping. William, for his part, has never been shy about standing his ground. His leadership style, decisive, no-nonsense, and modern, often clashes with his father's more emotional and traditional approach. And Camilla, well, she's firmly in Charles's corner. Royal insiders suggest that she's been known to whisper criticisms of William to her husband, which has only fueled William's distrust. Add to that the lingering resentment over her cozy ties with the British press, something Harry has openly blasted, calling her dangerous and blaming her for leaving bodies in the street on her climb to becoming queen consort. While William hasn't publicly echoed these sentiments, it's hard to imagine he disagrees entirely. Both brothers have long felt that Camilla's attempts to win public favor came at their expense, further deepening the wedge between them. The love triangle that shaped royal scars. So where did William's hatred for Camilla begin? Before he was even old enough to understand what betrayal meant, the seeds of resentment were planted in the messy, scandalous love triangle that defined his parents' marriage. The drama of Charles, Diana, and Camilla didn't just play out in private. It exploded onto the world stage, leaving deep scars on everyone involved, including William and Harry. It all started back in 1970 when Charles met Camilla through a mutual friend. According to royal biographers, Charles was smitten right away. Camilla was fun, natural, and didn't tiptoe around him like so many others. But their love story hit a wall almost immediately. Royal tradition dictated that Charles needed to marry someone with an aristocratic background and ideally a spotless reputation. Camilla, lacking both, didn't make the cut. In 1971, Charles left to serve in the Royal Navy, and by the time he returned, Camilla had moved on, marrying Andrew Parker Bowles in 1973. Heartbroken, Charles buried his feelings, but not for long. Fast forward to 1980, Charles began courting Lady Diana Spencer, a match that checked all the royal boxes. Diana was beautiful, aristocratic, and seemed to embody the fairy tale image the monarchy wanted to project. Yet even as Charles and Diana's relationship progressed, his connection to Camilla never really ended. She was at their wedding, smiling in the pews. Even then, Diana reportedly saw her as a looming threat, and she was right. By 1986, Charles and Camilla had resumed their affair, despite both being married and parents. Diana, by then aware of what was happening, confronted Camilla directly in a moment of raw courage. According to Diana, she confronted her rival directly, expressing her awareness of the situation between her and Charles and making it clear that she knew what was happening. In response, Camilla remarked that Diana already had everything she could ever want and questioned what more she could possibly desire. Diana's reply was heartfelt and direct. What she wanted was her husband. But Diana's pleas fell on deaf ears. The affair continued, and the cracks in her marriage widened. In 1992, Charles and Diana officially separated. Just a year later, the scandal reached a fever pitch when intimate recordings of Charles and Camilla's phone calls were leaked. The tapes, which became known as Camillagate, included declarations of love and racy exchanges that embarrassed the royal family and enraged Diana. For many, this confirmed what they had long suspected. Camilla wasn't just a passing figure in Charles's life, she was central to it. In a bombshell 1995 interview with Panorama, Diana famously described her marriage by saying, "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded." Diana's raw vulnerability won public sympathy, and Camilla became a villain in the court of public opinion. By 1996, Charles and Diana's divorce was finalized. It seemed like the drama might finally simmer down, but then tragedy struck. Just a year later, in 1997, Diana died in a car crash in Paris. Her death sent shockwaves around the globe, plunging her sons, William and Harry, into unimaginable grief. For William, it was a turning point. Not only did he lose his mother, but he also couldn't ignore the role Camilla had played in the heartbreak that consumed Diana's life. Unhealed wounds of a family, however, the only bigger negative than Camilla at that time for William was his father and the relentless way he seemed to push her into everyone's lives. After Diana's tragic death, barely a year had passed since the crash in Paris that took Diana from the world, and while William and Harry were still grappling with their immense loss, Charles seemed laser-focused on introducing Camilla into their lives. For William, it felt like a betrayal. How could his father expect them to simply accept the woman who had played such a central role in their mother's heartbreak? The first meeting between William and Camilla in June 1998 was nothing short of awkward. According to reports, it wasn't even planned. William showed up unexpectedly at the palace and spent about 30 minutes with Camilla, who must have been just as uncomfortable as he was. A few more tea and lunch meetings followed, but for William, these encounters didn't feel natural. They felt forced, part of Charles's determined campaign to make Camilla a permanent fixture in their lives. It wasn't just William who found the situation difficult. Even Queen Elizabeth initially balked at the idea of formally welcoming Camilla into the royal fold. According to royal biographer Tom Bower, the Queen referred to Camilla as that wicked woman and refused to condone the relationship. In a heated exchange, she allegedly told Charles she would never forgive Camilla for not stepping aside and letting his marriage to Diana heal. But Charles wasn't deterred. By January 1999, he and Camilla made their first public appearance as a couple at her sister's birthday party. The press was there in full force, capturing photos of the pair leaving together. For William, who was still a teenager at the time, the public spectacle must have felt like salt in the wound. He and Harry were still reeling from the loss of their mother, yet here was their father parading his new partner before the world. By the early 2000s, Charles was in full PR mode, trying to normalize his relationship with Camilla. The Queen attended a lunch with the couple in 2000, signaling her grudging approval, and Camilla began appearing at more royal events. In 2003, she officially moved into Clarence's house with Charles, complete with her own office. For William, it was yet another reminder of how quickly his father had moved on, prioritizing his happiness over the emotional needs of his sons. When Charles and Camilla announced their engagement in February 2005, William and Harry issued a polite public statement wishing them well. But behind the scenes, it was a different story. William reportedly struggled with the idea of his father marrying the woman who had been at the center of so much pain in their family. It wasn't just about Diana, it was about everything that Camilla represented: the scandal, the betrayal, the broken family dynamic. The wedding itself was a relatively low-key affair, a stark contrast to the grandeur of Charles and Diana's ceremony. Held at Windsor Guildhall, it was a civil ceremony that the Queen and Prince Philip notably skipped, attending only the blessing and reception afterward. For many, this was a sign that not everyone in the royal family was fully on board with this union. After the wedding, Camilla became the Duchess of Cornwall and quickly stepped into her new role, attending royal engagements alongside Charles. However, she brought with her not only scandals but also an unbearable son, Tom Parker Bowles. For Prince William, dealing with Camilla was one thing, but tolerating her slightly crunchy son was an entirely different challenge. Tom, a food writer and critic with a penchant for grabbing headlines, always seemed to rub William the wrong way. Born into a world far removed from royal protocol, Tom Parker Bowles has built a career as a culinary personality. Sure, his written cookbooks, judged TV cooking competitions, and scribbled down restaurant reviews for glossy magazines. But let's not kid ourselves, he's far from being a household name. His relevance, if any, often comes from the simple fact that he's Queen Camilla's son, and for William, that's precisely the problem. William, who is fiercely protective of his late mother's legacy, has always struggled to stomach Tom. From William's perspective, Tom represents a living reminder of the chaos that Camilla brought into the royal family's life. While Tom has publicly expressed sympathy for William and Harry, calling the media's treatment of them barbaric and horrendous, William has always seen these statements as self-serving. To him, Tom's words of support feel more like a calculated attempt to stay in the spotlight, much like his mother's well-documented efforts to rehabilitate her image. William likely finds it laughable that Tom believes he can empathize with what the princes endured growing up. While Tom did face his share of media attention as the son of the then-controversial Camilla, his experiences don't even begin to compare to what William and Harry went through. Losing their mother in such a public and tragic way and then being thrust into a media storm is an entirely different ball game. William has often felt that Tom's attempts to relate are nothing more than a deflection, a way of sidestepping the undeniable fact that his mother played a massive role in the breakdown of Diana and Charles's marriage. And let's not forget Tom's lifestyle, which William reportedly disapproves of, described by some as louche, which is a polite way of saying indulgent and a little sleazy. Tom's behavior often clashes with William's image as a responsible, modern royal. Whether it's his flashy public appearances, his love of controversy, or his tendency to say just enough to stir the pot, Tom often comes across as someone who thrives on attention. William, who values discretion and dignity, finds this exhausting at best and infuriating at worst. Tom's public statements about William and Harry have also been a point of contention. While he has avoided getting too involved in their personal lives, something he's quick to point out, it's clear to William that Tom's comments are carefully crafted to keep himself relevant. Phrases like "I learned not to poke my toes into their world" might sound diplomatic, but William sees them as thinly veiled jabs or worse, subtle provocations. From William's perspective, Tom is cut from the same cloth as Camilla, someone who knows how to manipulate public perception to their advantage. Both mother and son have spent years trying to reshape their images, and while Camilla has had some success thanks in part to Charles's relentless efforts, Tom has always felt like he's riding on her coattails. For William, this makes Tom not just irrelevant but also insufferable. However, if Tom is so irrelevant, you're probably wondering why we're even talking about him. Well, hold on just a bit longer because it will all make much more sense very soon. The cancer diagnosis that reopened old wounds. And despite the facade of a good relationship that Camilla and William had for a few years, everything became strained when King Charles was diagnosed with cancer in early 2024. What should have been a time of unity for the royal family turned into yet another chapter of tension between the Prince of Wales and his stepmother. For William, it felt like the mask Camilla had been wearing all these years had finally slipped, revealing the ambitious and calculating woman he had always suspected her to be. The announcement of the king's illness, a form of cancer discovered during treatment for an enlarged prostate, was met with an outpouring of public sympathy. Leaders, citizens, and even detractors of the monarchy offered their well wishes. But behind palace walls, it was a different story entirely. Camilla, who had spent decades clawing her way to the position of queen consort, now seemed more concerned with protecting her role than with supporting her ailing husband. From the very beginning, Camilla opposed making Charles's diagnosis public. On the surface, her argument seemed reasonable. Why expose the king to unnecessary scrutiny or risk destabilizing the monarchy? But to William, her resistance had a more selfish undertone. He believed she feared the diagnosis might raise questions about Charles stepping down, which would mean her carefully cultivated position as queen consort could diminish. After all, without Charles at the helm, Camilla's prominence would inevitably shrink, a prospect William suspected she found intolerable. Once the diagnosis was revealed, Camilla swung into action, controlling the narrative with a polished image of optimism. She reassured the public that Charles was doing remarkably well, often painting an overly rosy picture of his health. To William, this felt like spin rather than sincerity. He knew his father was exhausted, often in pain, and struggling to meet the demands of his role. Yet Camilla seemed intent on keeping him active, as if his every appearance was a necessary reminder that the monarchy was still strong. William watched with growing frustration as Camilla forced Charles to maintain a grueling schedule, weekly meetings with the Prime Minister. Private audiences and even public appearances continued despite the king's visible fatigue. To William, it was obvious that his father needed rest, but Camilla's determination to keep Charles in the spotlight made it clear to him where her priorities lay, protecting her own image of a strong, stable monarchy, even at the expense of the king's health. William took a stand. All that led up to this moment wasn't lost on Prince William. For years, he had watched Camilla slowly weave her influence into the fabric of the royal family, bringing along her own set of players, including her sister Annabel Elliot. Now, as the Prince of Wales took full control of the Duchy of Cornwall, William decided it was time to set boundaries and reclaim the narrative. Annabel Elliot, once brought in by King Charles as the chief designer for royal estates, had enjoyed a comfortable role on the duchy payroll since 2005. Her job involved sprucing up the luxury cottages and properties across Cornwall and Wales, with no apparent competition for the lucrative contract. Over the years, she pocketed substantial sums for her design services, including a reported $30,000 for furnishings and other costs in just 1 year. But William, known for his more modern and streamlined approach to royal finances, wasn't about to let this arrangement continue. In 2023, William made the decisive move to not renew Annabel's contract. Officially, it was a practical decision. Her work was deemed complete, and staff had learned enough to carry on without her. However, to those paying attention, it was clear this wasn't just about design projects. This was William sending a message. Camilla and her circle would no longer enjoy unchecked privilege. For Camilla, the decision was a bitter pill to swallow. Losing Annabel's position wasn't just a blow to her sister's steady income. It was a reminder that William wasn't afraid to challenge her. According to palace insiders, Camilla felt the ripple effects keenly. One source even claimed she was afraid of William, knowing full well that he merely tolerated her. Camilla's tight bond with Annabel only deepened the sting. The sisters share a close relationship and are regularly seen at events like Wimbledon and family gatherings. Annabel even played a prominent role during Camilla's coronation as queen consort, with her grandson serving as one of Camilla's pages of honor. Now, Camilla feared this could mark the beginning of more calculated moves from William to push her back. However, it seems that for the royal family, scandals never stop here. Tom Parker Bowles enters the story again in the ongoing drama of Prince William questioning Camilla's Christmas Eve guest list, which, as you can guess, contains Tom. This time, it's not just the fact that Tom is invited to the Sandringham festivities, it's what his attendance represents. For William, it feels like yet another provocation. Tom, Camilla's son from her first marriage, is set to join the royal family for Christmas at Sandringham for the first time ever. After years of celebrating the holidays in a casual, low-key way with his ex-wife and kids, Tom has decided to accept his mother's invitation. According to him, Camilla was eager to have him there, especially given what he called a hell of a 2 years with King Charles's cancer diagnosis and Camilla's recent bout of pneumonia. But let's be real, Tom's sudden enthusiasm for royal Christmas isn't winning William over. When reporters recently asked William if he would attend the Christmas celebration, his reaction was a dead giveaway. Looking visibly annoyed, he simply stated, "We'll be in Norfolk at Sandringham," but his tone betrayed his frustration. A source close to the royal family claimed that William, in private, had allegedly muttered, "I don't accept him." It wasn't hard to imagine why. After all, Tom's presence felt like the latest in a string of annoyances designed to needle the future king. Just months ago, William had made it clear that he wouldn't tolerate Tom when he firmly declined to attend the Balmoral gathering if Tom was present. And what happened? Tom didn't go. Now, with Christmas on the horizon and Tom boldly planning to attend, William feels cornered. To him, this isn't just about family bonding, it's about power dynamics. Tom's sudden reappearance feels calculated. Let's not forget that William already took a firm stance against Camilla's circle when he chose not to renew her sister Annabel Elliot's position with the Duchy of Cornwall. Firing Annabel was William's way of reclaiming control, and it clearly ruffled feathers. Now, Tom's decision to insert himself into the royal Christmas gathering feels to William like retaliation, a subtle move to remind everyone, including the Prince of Wales, that Camilla and her family aren't going anywhere. Meanwhile, Tom has been playing his role with a smirk and a shrug. When asked about the gathering, he casually mentioned bringing a suit and joked about not knowing what to expect. But his relaxed attitude hasn't fooled anyone, least of all William. Insiders suggest the prince views Tom's arrival as an unnecessary disruption, adding tension to an already stressful family dynamic. And what if William decides to make a statement? There's already speculation about how this could escalate. Imagine the scene, Tom Parker Bowles standing in front of Sandringham's closed gates. It's almost cinematic, but entirely possible given the strained undercurrents. For now, the royal family's Christmas plans are set, with 45 guests expected at Sandringham. William, Kate, and their children will be there. But one thing is clear, William isn't thrilled about sharing the holiday table with Tom. Whether he will confront him directly or whether this will be another round of subtle royal maneuvering remains to be seen. One thing's for sure, if I were Tom, I wouldn't mess with the future king. Do you believe Tom Parker Bowles' decision to attend Christmas with the royal family is a genuine attempt to reconnect or a subtle form of provocation? Let us know in the comments and subscribe to our channel for more.